Hi, welcome to In the Can with Carmella Cann Deluxe. My guest is a leading lady and has had a career that has spanned for almost 5 decades. Tony Award nominated actor, playwright, and cabaret performer. He's also a director, screenwriter, and author. His best known play is The Tale of the Allergist's Wife, which was a success on Broadway. Amongst other projects are Die Mommie Die, which won him the Sundance Film Festival Award. Recently, he was inducted into the Theater Hall of Fame. Welcome, leading lady, Charles Busch.
Well, hey there, Carmella.
How are you?
Wonderful. Lovely being here with you.
Thank you for coming. And I mean, you're recently inducted into the Theater Hall of Fame.
No, I still can't quite believe it. It was about a month ago that was the ceremony, and you know, I've always had such a big chip on my shoulder. Now I think I have to have all my clothes taken in because I don't have the chip anymore.
I mean, you have so many recognized awards over the years, and
well, that was a big thing too, because it's wonderful to be part of. I think we all want to be part of an overview. You know, it's great being singled out, but somehow when you feel included in a tradition, it's so moving. You know, I was raised in New York City, and was going to Broadway shows since I was 7, and to have my name on the wall at the Gershwin Theater with all the people that I grew up watching, you know, from the audience, it was. It's a very moving experience.
An honor.
I'll never forget it. Yeah.
What part of New York City did you grow up in?
Murray Hill.
Okay.
Yeah, 37th Street and Park. Yeah.
So, very different, I'm sure, than what it is today.
No.
No, really?
Yeah, no, it was a nice neighborhood then. Yeah.
I also grew up in New York City. That's why
No, I mean, that part of town has never really changed. But I always loved the West Village.
Okay.
And when I was in high school, I was always just taking the subway down to Sheridan Square and just wandering around, and just the names of the streets, McDougal Street and Abington Square and Patchen Place, it all seemed like out of a kind of a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And so I kind of vowed that someday I would live there, and I've lived on my block, in a different building that I started out with, but you know, since 1980.
So you've been in New York for most of your
really all my life. I went to Northwestern University, and that's in Evanston, Illinois. So I was there for 4 years, and then, you know, when you're not from New York, you want to be a performer, there's the time when you think, oh, I'm ready to hit New York, but it's a little trickier when you're from New York. And after I graduated from Northwestern, I just had a kind of a vague idea of how I was going to navigate a career in the theater. It seemed rather daunting.
So Charles, did you always know you wanted to do the theater versus film and television?
Oh yeah. Well, it's the idea of a rather androgynous teenage boy getting into film or television was pretty nil. No, I was stage struck. I wanted to be on stage. And it's kind of funny, with the Theater Hall of Fame, when I went to like theater camp or Northwestern or summer stock, whatever, I was never ever cast in a play. I was the last person anyone would think that, you know, 50 years later would be in the Theater Hall of Fame. I mean, it does sort of amuse me. I guess it's even a bit petty. They go, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, no, I mean, you were recognized by the LGBTQ Expo of a Lifetime Achievement Award back in 2016.
Right.
And in your speech, you said something that resonated with me as, you know, an actor myself, which was that you felt out of place and kind of like, you know, created your own work and paved your own way, so to speak.
Yeah, well, it never would have happened. No, when I graduated Northwestern in '76, and there really wasn't any dramatic literature for a you know, rather effeminate young man, and there were so few gay roles in general. The boys in the band, maybe there was that very depressing young man in the British play A Taste of Honey.
And even the gay roles back then, I feel like were very typecasting.
Yeah, just there were very few. I mean, really, Harvey Fierstein, when he wrote Torch Song Trilogy, and I guess that was the, I don't know, was it the early 80s, was it?
Okay.
Anyway, I mean, that really changed things a lot, and I think that encouraged many other writers to write plays with gay protagonists. So we really have to give him that credit. But I was fortunately exposed to sort of the avant-garde theater, and particularly Charles Ludlam, who was just an extraordinary writer, director, actor who had his own theater company downtown called the Ridiculous Theatrical Company. And when I saw him, I think I was still in high school when I first saw him play his version of Camille and other plays like Eunuchs of the Forbidden City. And I was just so dazzled and the idea that that he had created this himself, that it wasn't just like some Broadway comedy or musical. And, you know, it was a very small theater down in the Village. But it just showed the possibilities that one person could do. And that really got me thinking that maybe there would not be a place for me in mainstream theater, but perhaps if I created it myself, and I was always writing. It's odd to me that I didn't think that I was going to be a writer, and yet I was writing full-length plays when I was 11 years old. It just somehow, the idea of being on stage, being in the spotlight, was so
I mean, you've
important.
also acted in other people's work, not just your own.
Very little.
Okay.
A couple times it's happened.
Do you prefer to do your own work versus?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I agree, because I think it gives us a freedom on some level.
Well, if you really know yourself.
Okay.
And I think you have to have a certain objectivity in knowing who you are and what you have to offer. That's kind of a big thing for me. I think so often we slam the brakes on thinking, oh, I can't do that. I'm not this, I'm not that. And what I've tried to do in all these various different, what do you want to call it, art forms, whether it's writing a novel or doing a cabaret act or writing a play, I try to come at it in a positive way. And rather than thinking, oh, I can't do that, I like to think, what is it that I have to offer? So for instance, when I do a cabaret performance where I'm singing and telling stories, I'm not the world's greatest singer. I mean, if you want big notes, there are plenty of people who can give them to you. But I thought, okay, what do I have to offer? Well, I'm ultimately a storyteller. So I think I have a good way with an anecdote. As a singer, I can approach the song as a little 3-act play in itself, and make that something that's unique to me, as opposed to thinking, oh, I have to jump the octave and sustain long notes that other people can do much better. So that's kind of the way I try to approach things. But there are times when we all think, oh God, I can't do that.
I mean, I've seen a lot of your work, and you have a unique style on some level. When I think of old Hollywood on some level, were there actors or actresses you looked up to because,
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, well, I grew up just, watching old movies on television, and was just fascinated by the pantheon of leading ladies from, classic film, Bette Davis, of course, and Norma Shearer, who's a bit forgotten, but I always loved her. And then going further toward the 50s, Audrey Hepburn, or earlier than that, Greer Garson. I tended to like the great ladies. And of course, that certainly affected my acting style, because I also, as much as I loved old movies, from a very young age, I was fascinated by theater history, and in some ways maybe more than film.
Got it.
And one of the great things about living in New York City was that I would go after school to the Library of Performing Arts at Lincoln Center, and I would just go into the special research room, and I could take out these enormous scrapbooks that just like weighed a ton, and they'd be devoted to clippings of these great actresses who didn't necessarily do film, names like Catherine Cornell or Lorette Taylor, that in some ways might be forgotten to the larger public today, but were enormous stars of the 20s and 30s and 40s. And then going back further, in a way, the figure that made the biggest impression on me was the actress Sarah Bernhardt, who was a great first international star, and from the 19th century and then the early part of the 20th century. And her life inspired me because against great odds, she turned herself into this great star, and she also is a director, and she wrote plays, and she was very exotic, and she, rather like Barbra Streisand, she invented a new kind of beauty. You know, she was very exotic looking, and nobody looked like her back then, and she kind of forced people to see her as a great beauty. So all that was very inspiring to me.
I mean, you've had roles on a soap opera, One Life to Live, where in some ways you were the real life Tootsie of Dustin Hoffman's character.
I did 9 episodes. It was very odd because I really have not pursued what I call show business for the most part. Really, my career, I'd say 90% at least, has been writing and in a certain sense, even though I've never called a producer.
But you weren't playing a drag queen.
Producing
I mean, you
these
were
plays. So anyways, the few times when suddenly I've gotten a phone call asking me to step out of that is very rare. So I had a wonderful longtime manager, Jeffrey Melnick, who passed away a few years ago, and he was great because he didn't expect me to be making a lot of money. He just loved me, loved me, and it's so rare to have a manager, agent, who thinks more highly of you than you do yourself. I mean, he saw all sorts of possibilities that, no. I think he one time contacted the Royal Shakespeare Company in London to tell them that I should play Juliet. And
oh, wow.
He never told me what the answer was, but P.S. I never did it.
But I mean, the audience didn't know that.
Yeah, but he said, you won't believe this, but this producer at One Life to Live wants you to come on and play this the lady who runs a modeling agency. And I was kind of skeptical. I said, yeah, well, call him back and find out on which episode they pull my wig off and expose that I'm a man, because I would have no interest in that at all.
Exactly.
And he called back and goes, no, they want you just to play this female character. And the producer of that, he was an admirer of mine. He'd see me on stage. So it was his idea. There'd just be interesting casting. And
hello.
Hi.
And you are?
Oh, Jennifer Rappaport.
Who? Oh, the one who won that contest in Pennsylvania.
Landview University.
Uh-huh. Margaret Barlow, call me Peg. Hang on. For coup de beauté. Well, yes. We're looking for a photographer's assistant. And your name is?
Mark.
Okay, that's a start. Mark what?
Lindsay. Mark Lindsay.
Lindsay. Let's see, where's that blasted pen? Must be somewhere here. All right, Mr. Lindsay, how about you get yourself down here for an interview?
Sure. When?
Yesterday would be good. We really do need someone. Now, I gave you our address.
Yeah, I'm not too far. I'll be there in no time.
I just
But
had
it's
a ball.
great that, the audience
really
did not know
cool.
you were in the real life Tootsie in some ways.
I kind of was. I mean, it was just 9 episodes, but it was a lot of fun, and I was rather astonished that
And
they
you've
had
written
that kind of, that they were that adventurous and cool.
Yeah, especially at that time.
Yeah.
And you've written your own feature film, Die, Mommie, Die.
A couple of them. Well, I was lucky that 2 of my plays were turned into movies, Psycho Beach Party and Die, Mommie, Die. Yeah.
And you even won the Sundance Film Festival Award, another great honor.
I know, that was cool.
So, I mean, you know, and your writing is, you know, there were some lines that stood out to me, and you have a unique style of writing, which I actually, I think, pulled. Let's see.
Oh, dear.
No. I think they were great. So you say, darling daughter, you sound like a square from Squareville. You know, Jason Priestley plays your lover, and you said, you slipped into my life like as easy as a vermouth into a glass of gin. Quickly and just
a bit too smooth.
Exactly. I mean, very unique. I mean, you know, like I said, you know, a lot of writers don't write that way in some ways.
Huh? Darling daughter, you sound like a square from Squaresville. Who are you, Tony Parker? You've slipped into my life as easily as vermouth into a glass of gin. Quickly and just a bit too smooth. Tony Parker.
Don't you dare laugh.
But really, it's so amusing. You know, Magnin is having a sale on go-go boots. We could make a day of it.
Lance, just drink the goddamn soup.
Sorry, Daddy.
Well, I will not be tortured and tormented.
But Angela...
I want you out of my house. I want you out of my life. Just get out.
You can't discard me like one of your false eyelashes. This is Tony. I'm in for the long haul.
Out.
You and I made some heavy promises, baby.
Get out.
Well, you know, I'm influenced by the past, but then you try to give it a little bit of a twist of today. You can't just be writing kind of quasi-period dialogue. You have to also give it a twist and take it just a little bit to the next level. At the same time, I'm kind of a film historian, so there's so many different styles and forms of parody.
Okay.
You know, and I actually never really think of what I do as spoof. I think it's almost closer to homage.
Okay.
You know, when I do a play or a movie that's inspired by either a film genre or a theatrical genre, I love them so much that I'm not really making fun of them as much as by writing my own woman's picture. It allows me to get closer to my subject rather than standing back and like, oh, isn't this outrageous and sort of silly. When I do it, it's like I'm putting myself into the movie. And now, of course, as I said, you know, I can't just do that without some kind of little bit of distancing of humor, but they're not really broad satires. So sometimes, even when I've read reviews that are very positive, I sometimes think, I'm not sure I'm identifying or that they really understand what I'm up to. But then occasionally somebody will write something, I think, yeah, and it actually illuminates to me what I'm doing. And that's really great when some very insightful critic explains, and you think, yeah, that's right, that is who I am. So I guess we all need a whole. I think basically a whole career as a creative person is a journey into self knowledge and self awareness, and I think you do have to start off with as objective as we can, because we can't really be objective, but we must try to see this is who I am, and this is my product, and this is what I do best, and how to do it, and then also just keep learning, and I thought hopefully that never ends.
Oh, that's like, I feel like the journey of life a lot of us are on, and some people want to, keep that alive, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, And it's hard because, my next question, and I know it's hard because you've done so many projects, and I'm sure each of them are special to you, but is
Not all, baby.
But is there one that, was like your baby or like a really like touching project that you worked on that like was transforming on some level or?
Well, the last play, most recent play that I did was called Ibsen's Ghost.
The truth is as I see it, as I choose to see it. Susanna, sensuous and feline. With his demise, I lost, along with everything else, a conjugal partner of inexhaustible pyrotechnics. The diary will be lucrative to whomever takes it off. It's rather amusing, my sudden burst of hysteria. His acquaintanceship with these ladies was purely intellectual.
The worship of an admiring, intelligent young woman. He stole that girl's story.
Complete and utter forgetfulness might be a blessing, but the past can be a comfort. My wife gripped the pen in my hand as the words tumbled forth from my imagination and onto the empty page. Almost comic.
Please click the link below and visit Carmella Cann's shop. Have official merchandise, anything from magnets to tote bag. And they're perfect for either holiday gifts or birthday gifts. And you could get your official Carmella Cann merchandise on the link below.
And we did that at 2 theaters last year. First, George Street Theater in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and then immediately we transferred it to New York at Primary Stages. And I thought it was awfully good, and I thought I was marvelous in the play. And it wasn't until we closed that I read the reviews, which are not very good. And I was kind of like, oh gosh, because there have been times when I've failed, and I know it, or I thought it was pretty good, and then I've read reviews, and at first, you get all kind of like, oh, how dare they, and what do they know? And a lot of times, after I've calmed down, I thought, oh, actually, that is a good point. That is interesting. And numerous times, when I then had to prepare the script for publication, I've actually done a rewrite on it according to some of the
feedback.
Yeah. But I thought with Ibsen's Ghost, I thought it was awfully good. I think I was misunderstood, darling. Misunderstood.
And I mean, you did Vampire Lesbians of Sodom.
Yeah, that was my first kind of breakthrough play.
Where you said you actually, I believe, started making your living as an actor.
That really was my dream. Honestly, I was thinking about it not long ago that, I really didn't have set ambitions for as like my goal, I have to get a play on Broadway, or my goal is to have my own sitcom. I never thought that way. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. My big goal was to earn a living.
Okay.
Just because that is to earn a living doing what you love. I think that is one of the most rare things, and it's so wonderful, and so few people get that opportunity. And that was really the dream. And I had about 10 years of struggle where I had, my 20s were fabulous and awful, and I had every kind of crazy job. I draw well. I went to the High School of Music and Art, and so I was a quick sketch portrait artist for about 10 years, off and on between gigs. And I was a call girl, a stripper, office temp, receptionist in a zipper factory. At one point, I had a boyfriend who had a sports gambling line that people would phone in, and we would give them the tips on baseball, basketball, hockey, and football of what
Oh,
to,
wow,
what
okay.
to bet on. And so there were like bookies who would give
Did you
us.
follow these
give us-
sports?
no, I don't know anything. One thing was kind of amusing though, is because it was all the boys working in the phone room. We were basically all were tricks of of the boss. That's how. And we all were aspiring actors or dancers, and it was kind of funny that. We tried to butch it up on the phone. So there are like number of things like from 1 to 4. Like what's the best thing to bet on? So like 4 stars for Guidry for Yanks. And anyway, one boy was a ballet dancer, and so he had to say that the team to bet on was Villanova. But he pronounced it as Villanova. It's like ballet. Oh God!
I mean, did you like improvise like parts that you did not know about like sports or?
I didn't have a clue about any of it. I just read the copy that they told me. But anyway, I did all that stuff, and the first 10 years of my career was as a solo performer because I thought, to put on a play costs a budget. And I didn't know anybody, and so I thought it was better just to be a solo performer. And I was not in costume. I would just be in neutral clothes, but I would do these narratives where I played all the characters, male and female, and just changing my voice and posture. And I just kept. I booked myself. I never could find any management. So I would just, book myself all over the country, and San Francisco and Chicago and
so you paved your own way.
Washington D.C. and all that, and some of these places were pretty flea bitten, but I just kept growing, and I think I really did feel that it was going to work out. I never got that discouraged, and some of these I had some really pretty awful experiences, but I felt that if I just kept growing and learning and getting better, and if I just pursued it with just never veering from this path, that eventually somehow it would work out. I didn't know how it was going to work out, but I just kind of knew. And then after about 10 years, what ended up working out wasn't my solo show. I just happened to be invited to see a friend do their performance piece at a art gallery bar on Avenue C called the Limbo Lounge. And I saw my friend Bina do her performance there, and I was so enraptured by the whole ambiance of this little East Village bar. It was like out of Berlin in the 20s, and I just immediately thought, we have to do a show here, and I didn't want to do my act where I was dressed all in black. I thought I'm just got to be in drag and play a female character, and get some of my friends to play the other parts. And somehow I do think that when I looked like the character I was playing, it seemed to capture people's imagination more. And so this play we did a number of these different, I was just, jotting off these plays, while I was working as an office temp. But the one that really took off was Vampire Lesbians of Sodom, and it was just like a sketch. And I didn't think it was very good. I wrote it so quickly; it was just something to do. But
there was a turning point in your life.
It was, and I think in a way, kind of like Oh Mary today, has become such a huge hit in a much bigger way than Vampire Lesbians. But there's a certain similar narrative that I think with Oh Mary, we need that playwright now. People are so scared and frightened of the future, and just so much has been going on that somehow just to laugh and see this fabulous person playing the female part, and it's what's needed right now, and so it's such a huge hit. And
I believe comedy and humor is a way of healing on some level.
I think Vampire Lesbians was at the height of the AIDS crisis, and for those of you who are too young to have known what we went through, it was kind of like our war, our World War II.
And you lived through that period.
Yes, and there was so much loss, and I think that for particularly the gay community to see a silly piece, that was just very campy and outrageous, and and kind of sexy, and discovering a new drag performer, even though I've been around for 10 years, but there was something magic to it.
Yeah.
And so that play became a big hit and ran 5 years.
I mean, do you consider yourself like sexy as a performer, or someone who is more extravagant, or like?
I do think it's hard to talk about yourself without saying, who does he think he is?
Yeah, but
I do think
it's fine to talk about ourselves.
I do think that most performers who kind of break through, that there's a sexual quality to them, and some of the people who don't break through and are talented think, they're just not. That sex quality isn't there, and I don't know. It's funny. It's hard to describe, but yeah, I think with Vampire Lesbians, where other performers were really dealing in kind of a marvelous grotesque kind of outrageousness. I had cute boys taking, in G-strings, and the girls all had kind of cute figures, and it was kind of sexy. When my first entrance as the young virgin sacrifice, I was practically nude. I sort of went as far as I could go without showing my genitalia. I entered with this long wig that kind of covered my chest, and then I just wore this little G-string with a piece of tulle netting wrapped around, and then spike heels. That was my costume, and so I thought it was kind of fun. I experimented a number of times when I was young and very thin, of how few clothes can I wear and still be in drag. There was a moment in this play, Psycho Beach Party, that we did, because when it was made into a movie, Lauren Ambrose played my part, she was Gidget, but I played it, and then in the movie I played a different role, but in the play I was the young girl, and she's kind of a tomboy, and there was a scene when she first comes on. She's at the beach with her girlfriends, and she has to change. She realizes she doesn't have her top on under her kind of little smock, whatever. So nobody's looking. So I took off my top, and so I was bare chested, and I went, oh, I'm built just like a boy. I'm never going to fill out. And it was a huge laugh, but it's sort of odd because here, I'm totally exposed as a boy, but I'm still, because I'm thinking I'm a girl, and the audience must believe that I'm a girl, that even though...
Well, you're bringing truth to the character on some level.
Yeah, so that was really kind of a cool...
And playing off of yourself.
I thought it was a cool laugh. Yeah. Sometimes the best... I find the best laughs that are when it's not based on a clever line, but the audience is responding to what the thought in your head, and they're very hard laughs to find. But when you get them, it's really cool.
And I mean, you've worked with so many amazing people. So I'm gonna name some performers and tell me what comes to your mind. Okay. Harvey Fierstein.
I never worked with Harvey.
No, just what comes to your mind when I mention these people. It doesn't matter whether.
Trailblazer.
Cyndi Lauper.
Complicated.
Jason Priestley.
Really good sport.
Liza Minnelli.
What's the right word for her? Professional.
Betty Davis.
Oh, I thought I worked with her.
You said you looked up to her.
Independent.
Julie Halston.
Love her. Just pure comfort.
RuPaul.
Brilliant.
Jinx Monsoon.
Oh, more than brilliant. Oh, the real deal.
Stephen Sondheim.
Just, the father of us all. He was very, very nice to me, very encouraging. Yeah. Although the very first time I met him was terrifying. I had done this play called The Lady in Question. That was kind of a big hit, and I received an incredible rave review by Frank Rich in the Times, and kind of took me to another level. And it was inspired by this kind of anti-Nazi suspense movies from the 40s. And I was at a party and with my partner at the time, Eric, and there was Sondheim, and oh God, and he walks over to us, and he says, you must know everything there is about old movies. And he was a great games player. So he started firing off trivia questions at me, and under pressure, I can't remember anything, particularly from somebody like Stephen Sondheim. I mean, he could have asked me who played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. I would have said Deanna Durbin. I mean, I just blank out. And so he started throwing these obscure...
And you feel like you're starstruck and that's why you were blanked out? Or
Yeah, I was so intimidated, but I'm terrible under pressure anyway. So he asked some question like, name me 2 movies starring Paul Goddard, directed by Mitchell Leisen. And Eric, my partner, really, it was like Mr. Memory. He really is. So when I was like, he give the answer, and sometimes said, "You're cheating. And after I think I failed 3 times, he thought enough of that one. But then later he was very encouraging when he'd see shows of mine, and actually the Allergist Wife. I think part of the reason it was a huge hit was that we had done it first at Manhattan Theater Club, nonprofit, and then plans were afoot to move it to Broadway. And just as we were starting previews at the Barrymore Theater, it coincided with Sondheim having a big profile in the New York Times. I think it was Sondheim at 70. And in that article, Frank Rich, who wrote the story, asked him what if he went to the theater and what he liked. And in this article, it said, Sondheim said, that I saw The Tale of the Allergist Wife, and it was the funniest play I've ever seen, ever. Well, we started selling out at the first preview, and I really do think that he had something to do with it. And what was very sweet was then on the opening night, that afternoon, I received a telegram at my apartment. I thought, who sends me a telegram? And I opened it up, and it said, "Welcome to the big time, Steve Sondheim." Oh my God. But when he died, so many people were posting on social media about how encouraging he'd been to, so many young performers and composers and writers. And so many that he directly mentored, and then others that he just encouraged. It was really remarkable.
I'm sure, I know there are many people who look up to your work and have taken your productions and created them, a lot of performers.
Yeah.
Do you ever see someone who's younger and that reminds you of you at a certain time, or?
Well, I have 2 answers to that. Well, on the positive side, I see somebody like Jinx Monsoon. I think is so talented, and I just think that she's going to just have this extraordinary career. I think she's going to have.
She's already.
Already, she has one, but I think that we've just seen the tip of it, and I think that she's going to be the one that really ends up being a great Broadway star. I absolutely believe that. Now, back to my plays. They're frequently done around the country by sort of small, kind of LGBT kind of community groups, in different cities. And I at first, I've seen, there are a couple times when I have seen productions or I've seen photos, and sometimes I don't recognize the play. I think, what scene is that? Who are they playing? It's in such a different style, usually much broader than what I do. And
have you ever seen someone?
And so sometimes at first I was kind of a little disturbed by it. And then, about 15 years ago, I started traveling around the country doing my cabaret act, because I had never toured in a production of one of my plays. But I started touring around, and I would meet people afterwards who would come up to me and say just incredible things to me. Like, I was in a production of Psycho Beach Party in my hometown, and I came out to my parents, and just stuff like that, or just what it meant to them, and I just really was quite bowled over, and I thought that I felt just this great burst of pride. I thought that's a great legacy. Because my plays aren't really done by big theaters around the country. They're mostly small amateur groups, but
they just touch
that's
someone's
okay.
life.
That's okay. That's. It took me a while to own it and just think that's really great.
Have you ever gone to see one of your plays that's been brought to production and, like you said, like maybe didn't recognize it, or was like, oh, they have a completely different view of it?
I rarely had the opportunity.
Okay.
Although, what was kind of funny was the very first time there was a production of Vampire Lesbians, and we were still doing it in New York, but it was like a small little group of very young people doing it, like in Connecticut. So a bunch of us got together and went up there. And I'm not really a detailed person, and so when the Samuel French published script came out, I didn't do a very good job at proofreading it. And there were all sorts of typos, and it wasn't until I saw the script that, oh dear, what nitwit I am, I should have been more careful. So we're seeing this production up in Connecticut, and at one point, this one girl in it just like is saying like gibberish. I thought, what the hell is she saying? And then I realized, oh my God, they're reading they've memorized the typos, and I knew where they were coming. It was like a car wreck.
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh my God! Here it goes. And then they got to a point where it was so sloppy that I had dialogue attributed to the wrong characters even, and so they're saying these things that make no sense. And quit you. I was just so mortified when it was over. We went backstage and we were telling them all it was marvelous, and then
I just to approach them afterwards and say,
I just had to say, that those were typos, my mistake. And I said, didn't you realize that cortisone wasn't a word? And this girl said, well, we just thought it was avant-garde.
Oh.
So I've been really much more careful now. I really tried. That was funny.
And you're going to be doing a cabaret show at 54 Below in March.
Yeah, March 21st and 22nd. For a while there, I really was traveling around. I mean, I was in about 37 cities in four countries. I really did it. And I'm not doing that so much anymore, but I like keeping my hand in. And I think it's at my advanced age, my dear, I feel it's important to just keep challenging myself, particularly musically, because that's not necessarily my strongest suit. But so learning new songs and pushing myself, and so I booked myself into 54 Below to do a new show, and I'm working with a marvelous new pianist, John O'Manelli, and so I think it's going to be a good show. It's very, very ambitious musically.
I mean, like I said, you've done so much work. I mean, do you prefer doing cabaret more versus plays? Does it,
each one is interesting. I have found, though, lately, or the last couple of years, let's say, I think what gives me the greatest pleasure is writing.
Okay.
I mean, I love performing. I love being on stage.
What about writing gives you?
Writing, somehow, I can sit there. I have enormous discipline. In some ways, I have no discipline at all. I ate all of your chocolates, by the way. Once I get
That's
started.
what they're there for.
Yeah, I just. But I'm sitting there from I'd say basically every 7 days a week, by the time I really get started, after looking at Facebook and everything, 11 to 4:30.
Have you ever had a
every
writer's
day.
block on some level?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, it's very difficult when there's nothing there. When there's nothing on the page, it's really hard, and that takes enormous discipline. When there's nothing there, and there are all sorts of ways that we can trick ourselves into doing it. I try to avoid page one by I write a lot of notes on a piece of paper, so I have a lot of notes there, and then I write the notes on the desktop computer and cut and paste them, and then it's almost there, ready for me to fill in and write. But once I have something, just anything there, I just love rewriting and tinkering with it and just changing out that word for another word, and then going back again to the first word, and then the find, was it the find function on Word, where I realize, oh damn it, I've used the word enchanted 6 times in 20 pages, so I have to figure out different way of saying that word at least 4 of those times. I just can go endlessly doing that, and it's not a discipline. It's almost an escape. So I'll shut down the computer at 4:30 because I gotta exercise my legs and take a walk and go to the grocery store, but then at 6 o'clock I just want to go back in just to see if change that one word and be there for another hour and a half, and then sometimes. Then later, after I've watched TV at 11:30, I get just one more idea. I'll just go in for 1 second just to change that word, and then I'm on for another hour and a half. And yeah, I love it.
Well,
just love it.
It's your passion, and I can relate to that. You know, they say follow your passion and money will follow, and kind of you did that in the 80s, and have been able to, like you said, been one of the lucky ones to do what they love.
Yeah. So I'm very involved right now, and I'm trying to write my first murder mystery novel, and it's really hard. I hope I pull it off. I was thinking, okay, what do I have to offer? I'm not sure it's going to be the most involved, clever plotting with reversals, and I'm not sure I'm going to be Agatha Christie. But I thought, well, maybe I can make up for that with dialogue and characterization and tone. So I hope so. But I'm enjoying it. But it's really hard, and it takes you have to really get to the logic of it. Unfortunately, I have a very dear friend, Kathy, who's done my wigs for my whole career for 40 years. But she's very pragmatic. And so I'll run ideas past her about how to murder someone, and then she'll say, but if you're going to put the strychnine into the cocaine, how wouldn't she know the I want to kill her. And her, well, I guess you're right. Then I have to figure out a different way of doing it. But it's very good having her just asking those questions. But I don't understand, if he did that, wouldn't he have known? It's so annoying.
Do you have any quotes you tell yourself, if you're having a bad day or need I think of things that sometimes, simple things for me, sometimes I keep it easy or keep it simple, or anything that kinds of, because you seem to have a very positive energy
I try.
Outlook.
I get very discouraged. I've had years where I was terribly discouraged. I think I was in my late 50s when I went through a period where I just was down on everything. And I thought, that my whole life's creative work was just not quite good enough. And I was looking through old scripts of mine, and the ones that had, gotten good reviews or were successful, I think, they like that. And then the other ones that they didn't like, no, they were right. It was, you know, piece of crap. No, I was just awful about it. But somehow, I don't know, the hormones changed or whatever, and got past it.
I mean, you have a body of work that is, astonishing on many levels. I've always admired you and your
done
work.
a lot of different things. I've worked with wonderful people. I've had, in a way, I haven't worked with that many people considering the length of my career. You know, I tend to just stay put with the same group because I love writing for specific people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, like Julie Halston, or in the last few years, Jennifer Van Dyke and Christopher Borg.
Please click the link below and visit Carmella Cann's shop. Have official merchandise, anything from magnets to tote bags. And they're perfect for either holiday gifts or birthday gifts. And you could get your official Carmella Cann merchandise on the link below. Is there someone you want to work with that you haven't worked with yet?
Not particularly. I love working with friends. I really do. And Carl Andrus, who's directed almost all of my plays for the past 25 years, it's such a comfort. You know, I just find it very comforting with people who love me and forgive me and are so appreciative and are really good. I sometimes tell young people who are just starting out in the theater, and often they'll say, "Oh, isn't it just all about who you know?" And they get so discouraged. And maybe it's kind of sappy, but I say I think it's who you know right now. I think when you're young, I think it's important to surround yourself, pick up people who you think are really talented, and join forces with them. And I think I help.
So do you
me.
still work with people like you worked like 30, 40 years ago? Okay.
Yeah. No, but I think it's important to have talented friends. I think that's a good point to start off with. Yeah, no, and then you grow together. I mean, Julie has this marvelous career, but when I found her, I met her first in San Francisco, and she was had a job on Wall Street as a corporate librarian, and I saw her attempt at doing kind of a solo piece, a performance piece. She talks with the Comac Long Island accent, and she was just terrible. But I don't know. When we were going to do Vampire Lesbians, I was so desperate to find an actress to play the succubus, and somehow telling someone, well, we're going to be doing it in this bar on Avenue C, and there's no money, and we're going to rehearse it a few times, and you're playing the succubus. It didn't sound terribly attractive to people, and so the last one on my list, after my own sister turned me down, was this blonde girl I met in San Francisco, and so I called her up and, would you want to do this? And rather too quickly she said yes. But what was so interesting was that when we first did, the play, I'd written this little sketch, not for her, and she wasn't really very good, but she was so funny in real life, and she would when she'd just tell us all stories about her mother and growing up in Long Island, and she was so funny that I thought, well, maybe I could rewrite the part and
incorporate some of her
her
stories,
phrases and attitudes, and so I did that. Then she started getting better, and we kind of fed each other. That she inspired me to take it further. That persona.
Well, I feel like that creates the character and gives the character more depth.
Yeah, and it gave her confidence too, because she'd been a theater major at Hofstra, and she had been told both by her teachers and then just people.
And you connect sometimes more to the character as well.
Yeah, but she had been basically told to just strip away the parts of her personality that were too outrageous, too aggressive. So when I first saw her perform, she was sort of using this kind of fake voice to speak nicely, and it was really kind of dull and kind of fake. So I say this because she'd be the first one to say it. So I'm not just, I don't want to come off like, oh, aren't I Svengali? But just, no, I would say I gave her permission to take the outrageous part of her personality and celebrate it and go further and do it. Because theater, you are your product, and you do have to know what it is that you're selling and what it is that makes you special. And I used to call it, their trip. Each person in our little company was each person in our company was at Theater in Limbo, our original company, was so eccentric that each one had their trip, and it was fun for me as a writer to figure out in each play to let them do their trip, but you couldn't just repeat the exact thing. You had to kind of take it in a slightly different direction. It really was like having like an old movie studio, having my contract players, and what do I do with Clark Gable? What do I do with Betty Davis, or whatever? So it wasn't just myself that I was trying to figure what is my trip, but all the other people. And I love that. And to this day, when I write a new play, basically it's always for a group of people that I just want to hang out with, and if I don't write them a play, do they ever call? No. So I get an idea for a character that I want to play that's usually part of some kind of movie or theatrical genre, and then I write a list of who I want to hang out with. And so I want Jennifer, I want Jonathan, I want Christopher.
I love how you're casting.
Yeah,
that way.
so who could Jennifer be in this, thriller type story? Oh, she could be, the artist's manager, who's lethal, and who could Borg play? So I get those ideas for them to have fun with it, and then the play the plot
comes to life,
sort of evolves around that. And that's kind of, for the most part, that's how I've.
I think it must be fun too to work with people and all your friends, and
it's just fun. There's no temperament. There's no, just no
ego
and people causing. There's some people in life that just cause trouble. They're very complicated. They're complicated.
And also,
people.
What you're getting in a way because you've worked with them before.
Yeah.
So
and they're excited about what they get, because when you write somebody a part, at least for me, since I'm writing it for specific people.
And it's an honor for them that you're writing for them.
And I'm doing it because I know it sounds kind of saccharine, but I love them, and yeah. So
I would think that's an honor.
It's my gift that I can give you to write you a part that showcases what's unique about you.
Right now, I just thought of Elton John, who said the song he has about "My song is my gift" or something like that came to my head right now as you were.
When I was very young, I was so unscholastic, and and being a gay kid, and I couldn't do sports, and I couldn't do this, and at least like some kids who can't do sports, at least they're smart in school. I didn't even have that. I couldn't really focus and was so uninterested, and the teachers were often just, I was just kind of invisible, yet I was writing full-length plays.
And now,
but to them, I was just, this kind of invisible kid.
You're invisible then, but now you're looked up to and admired by many people and respected for the body of work. Not many people can have,
Yeah, as many people respect me, a lot of people, they'll still diss you. It's not, yeah. That's why that Theater Hall of Fame thing was so moving to me, because sometimes I felt like the red leaf on the family tree in the theater. Because I've written some of my plays, or most of my plays are written for this small group of people, and not on Broadway. I one big Broadway hit, The Allergist Wife, but really my career has been off Broadway. And actually, I think in my speech at the Hall of Fame thing, I said I'm just really surprised and rather impressed that you have giving me this honor because I'm not the obvious choice. I think I used the phrase that I've existed on this rather strange little island
But
away
you
from the
stood
mainstream.
out in that island. So
Well, they liked what was on the island, and I said, when you honor me, you honor the other people who have toiled on that island with me.
But when I think of you, I think of someone unique, and I think of someone that stands out. Your work stands out in a way that is different than other people's work, and I think that that draws people. And I think
Yeah, but I mean, really, as many people as when you do something that's kind of out there, whatever you do, there's going to be some people who hate it. I don't think
you can't please everybody.
Yeah, and like with critics, you can get 10 rave reviews, but there's going to be one who thinks it's a piece of crap. Or
as long as you don't focus on that
the opposite. I had a play called Our Leading Lady that Manhattan Theater Club produced that I was not in. Kate Mulgrew played the lead. And I'd say we got, out of 10, 9 kind of reviews. But the Hartford Courant thought it was like the greatest play ever seen. That if only he wrote for the New York Times, we'd be going to Broadway. So I mean, you can't obviously you can't live by that, but at the same time it's I don't know. I find it hard being really arrogant because as many people who think I'm special, there's many more people who don't get it and refuse to get it.
I have a thing of stick with the winners, and like you said, your friends and the ones that do make you feel special. I, have always looked up to you as a performer and can relate to not fitting in a certain world and kind of creating my own way forward. So I've always, you carry a special place in people's,
well, thank you, Don.
in the community. So
I appreciate it.
And again, congratulations on being inducted into the Theater Hall of Fame. Not many people can say that.
No.
And another thing on your resume.
Yeah, well, it's the last line of every bio. This is silly.
And thanks so much for coming on. Good luck with the 54 Below with your cabaret.
Well, thank you.
And
it's been delightful being with you.
Oh, thank you. I hope you come back again.
I'd love it.
And and everyone, please go see Charles Busch at 54 Below on March 21st and 22nd. Right. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. Please don't forget to leave a comment, and I will see you on the next podcast. Thanks.